Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to yet another episode of BIZVERDS. My name is Zain Goplani. I'm a trainer and consultant working at PhoneWorks Global. BIZVERDS is an initiative by PhoneWorks Global where we bring experts and professionals from across the country, from across the fields, who talks about different topics. And today our topic is personal branding. The personal branding की अगर simple फास्ट में बात की जाए तो again आप individual कैसे एक brand है. Now you understand that creating a personal brand, now, this can be a very tiring, daunting, mythical task, And again, one of the easiest ways to get lost is in the process. We do not know where to start. कहाँ से start किया जाए? क्या मुझे अपनी तस्वीर ऐसी रखनी है? मुझे क्या रखना है? And both, the whole idea is कि आपका उस culture में क्या चल रहा है? Job market कैसे evolve होती जा रही है? किस तरह से आपका पर्सनल ब्रांड आपको हेल्पफुल कर सकता है. एंड ऑफ कोर्स जब हम पर्सनल ब्रांड की बात करते हैं तो पर्सनल ब्रांड का मतलब ये नहीं है कि आप कोई सेलिब्रिटी ही होने चाहिए तभी आप अपना पर्सनल ब्रांड क्रिएट करेंगे. आप एक जॉब पे भी हो सकते हैं और तब भी आप अपना पर्सनल ब्रांड क्रिएट कर सकते हैं. मेरे पास आज मौजूद है दो बहुत ही थॉरो प्रोफेशनल्स, टू अमेजिंग गेस्ट, expert in their field, expert in the field of public relations, marketing. I have joining me is Mr. Adeel Shahid, who's country marketing and public affairs officer from Citibank, Pakistan, and I have Mr. Shaharyar Nishat. He's company secretary, director, legal and public relations at HUBCO. So without further ado, let me bring both Adeel and Shaharyar on screen with all of you right now. Thank you so much, Shaharyar. Thank you so much, Adeel, for joining us live today in our episode of BizWords. We'll start with your introduction. I'll start with you, Shaharyar. Please introduce yourself to everyone who's watching us right now.
Ramzan, thank you so much for this opportunity. I think you already did the intro. You said my name's Shaharyar. I look after the company secretarial function, the legal function, as well as the public relations function at HUBCO. HUBCO is the largest IPP in Pakistan, and as such, we have a very large public footprint and an image that I look after.
Right. Thank you so much, Shaharyar, for being here with us, and it's an honor for us to have you with us today. Over to you, Adeel.
Thank you, Zain. Thank you, Shaharyar. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. It's a pleasure to be part of this this forum. So as Zain said, my name is Adeel Shahid. I'm the head of marketing and public affairs at Citibank in Pakistan. I have been working with Citi for the last 7.5 years, and I have been in the field of communication and financial journalism for the last 8 to 10 years. I started my career as a financial journalist, as a broadcast journalist. I was working closely with CEOs and CFOs and C-level executives of various MNCs and FMCGs, local and international companies. I've interviewed more than 250 CEOs in that time. I worked closely with them with regards to their communication needs, their projection needs. And then from there on, I joined Citibank, where I have over the years worked with various small businesses through our philanthropic work that we do in the country, as well as working on the product side. So have been heavily involved on brand positioning from an individual perspective, as well as from small and medium enterprises to a large organization throughout my career. Short introduction.
Wow. That's incredible, Adeel, and thank you so much for being here with us today, and of course sparing out time for our BizWords webisode. So we're talking about personal branding today, and before we right away start from the topic, जो लोग हमें सुन रहे हैं, जो लोग हमें देख रहे हैं, वो तमाम ऑडियंस, मैं चाहूँगा कि आप अपने आप को जरूर इंट्रोड्यूस कीजिएगा यहाँ पे, ताकि मैं, अदील और ऑफ कोर्स शहरियार जान सके कि हमें किन किन लोगों ने ज्वाइन किया है. तो आप देख सकते हैं कमेंट सेक्शन में, चाहे आप हमें फेसबुक पे देख रहे हैं या आप हमें यूट्यूब पे देख रहे हैं, डू राइट योर नेम, योर डेसिग्नेशन, योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, योर सिटी, सो दैट वी नो हमें कौन लोग कहाँ से ज्वाइन कर रहे हैं. एंड ऑफ कोर्स अदील और शहरियार के साथ मेरा साथ होगा पूरा 1 घंटा. हम पूरे 1 घंटे यहाँ मौजूद होंगे, आपसे बातचीत भी करेंगे, ऑफ कोर्स लाइव क्वेश्चंस भी लेंगे. तो फील फ्री टू मेंशन योर नेम, योर डेसिग्नेशन, योर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, योर सिटी, एंड ऑफ कोर्स योर क्वेश्चंस जब एट द लेटर पार्ट ऑफ द शो. ठीक है जी. तो अदील और शहरियार, हम बात कर रहे हैं पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग के ऊपर. अगर सिंपल अल्फाजों में समझा जाए तो ये पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग है क्या? शहरियार, if you want to start off with that thing, what is this personal branding?
Yeah, personal branding, in my view, is something where you try and put yourself across with what is that? You ask yourself the question, what is my unique selling point, or what is that unique quality of mine, and how do I portray that to not just those around me, but to the entire world? I think it's about finding that quality which sets you apart, and then, but very importantly, how do you convey it to those that matter? and then thereby creating a brand out of yourself. हम लोग बात करते हैं कि the 1990s were the eras of the conglomerates. We saw these
Yeah.
large corporations take over, and this era is really now while it's the era of the millennials, but it is the era of the entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurs are only as successful as they're able to brand themselves.
बिल्कुल सही है.
You pick up any of the valuable companies around the world right now. In fact, I think Tesla is a fantastic example.
Yeah.
Everyone talks about, whenever they talk about Tesla, they actually talk about Elon Musk. They don't talk
Exactly.
about Tesla. When you
बिल्कुल
talk
सही
about
है.
SpaceX, again, you're talking about Elon Musk. And it's
Yes.
about the brand that Elon Musk has created around himself. Tesla and SpaceX are brands and they're companies and they're doing very well. But Tesla is the most valuable automobile company in the world now because of Elon Musk's personal brand. And a great example of this is when the SEC, the U.S. SEC, fined Elon Musk for some comments that he had made, that he was disclosing some proprietary knowledge on his Twitter handle, etc. The Tesla stocks took a hit, but Elon Musk his image didn't take a hit. He was removed as chairman, but he remained in the driving seat, and he continues to be the driving force behind the valuation of Tesla as well as SpaceX. So when you look at the shareholders in these companies, their brand value is being driven by the brand value that Elon Musk has created in himself. So he found that USP in himself, about himself, and he's very aptly been able to communicate that to the rest of the world and brand himself. So when I think about personal branding, that's really what comes to my mind.
Interesting. So somewhere you're saying that the owner, or maybe there's one person in that particular organization who can also, create difference in the organization's brand. So Elon Musk is a great example, and I'm sure Jack Ma is another example of Alibaba here. Jack Ma is such a big brand. A lot of people started following Alibaba after reading or after hearing about Jack Ma. Interesting. Adeel, what is your intake about that? क्या आप एक personal brand apart from being a CEO, apart from being a founder, entrepreneur, फिर भी बन सकता है, फिर भी इंसानों का personal brand हो सकता है?
Well, of course, Zain, I think Shaharyar very articulately, put together exactly कि organization पे एक personal brand कैसे impact करता है. So for me personally, a personal brand is basically your lifestyle. It's basically your reputation. It's more to say with what people say about you when you leave the room behind your back. It's your story, what people tell about you when you're not, around. It's basically your personal brand is what follows you everywhere you go. I mean, that's how I look at this. Personal branding. It's basically a manifestation of who you are, and it amplifies what you basically believe. It's not really a reflection of a series of job functionalities like I'm a chairman of a company, or I'm a marketeer, or a finance professional, or a compliance professional, etc. But it's basically your ideals. Like you are a person who gives back to the community. Your thoughtfulness. Are you a personality which is also can provide mentorship to people within the same field or within the same career or the same horizon that you're operating in. It's basically, I mean, I think your personal brand that people don't realize is your true asset, which will define you and lives with you and lives after you. It's your name. It's basically your reputation. That's how I would define a personal brand.
Wow, that was amazing, and the way you said it, that the story that people talk about after you leave the room is about personal branding and is what people say about you, talk about you when you're not there, and that was beautiful, interesting. We have 25% watching us live right now, and अगर आपने हमें भी join किया है, मेरे पास मौजूद हैं आज शहरियार निशात from HUBCO and Adeel Shahid from Citibank Pakistan. We're talking about personal branding. आप लोग प्लीज जरूर बताइएगा कि आप लोग कौन है, कहाँ से हमें ज्वाइन किया हुआ है, किस इदारे से आपका ताल्लुक है, और ऑफ कोर्स आप क्या जानना चाहेंगे पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग के हवाले से. मेरे पास कुछ कमेंट्स हैं अदील, एंड कुछ कमेंट्स है शेयर. लेट्स सी व्हाट द पीपल आर टेलिंग अस राइट नाउ. वी हैव Rizwan ul Haq. He's saying that he's really excited to learn from this amazing session. Thank you, Rizwan, for sharing your good words. We have Ali Said joining us. He's a PR manager from HUBCO. I have Sabur Khan. He's joining us. Of course, Sabur looks after our design work. So of course, he's our graphic and is our multimedia and all that team. Thank you, Sabur, for being here with us. हम बात कर रहे हैं पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग की. अच्छा शहरियार, if I ask about, since we have talked about what is personal branding here, how important do you think is it for individuals to understand and figure out their own brand? उनके लिए कितना ज़्यादा important है? वो किसी भी डेसिग्नेशन में मौजूद हो, चाहे वो सीनियर हो, चाहे वो junior हो. What do you think?
I think it's extremely important. I think in
Yeah.
today's environment, it is absolutely critical to one's success, both in a professional life as well as personal life.
Mm.
And you're right. One thing you touched upon, it doesn't matter what stage of your career you're at, what level you are operating on, whether you're the CEO or whether you're a trainee.
Mm.
Our lifestyle has completely changed because of the various social media platforms that we have in front of
Yeah.
us. And
Yeah.
this is an era where we're constantly sharing. In fact,
Mm.
oversharing. And there's a lot of debate now being done about that. Are we oversharing? Are we putting too much out there? There's issues with gaslighting, etc.
Mm.
But that's a separate issue. But in terms of how important personal branding is on an individual level, it is
Mm.
extremely important. It's the only way, and to use the words, the most appropriate words that actually Adeel used, it is the only way to put your story out there, to put yourself out
Mm.
there.
Yeah.
वो बिल्कुल सही है that when you are so let's take your professional job at the moment, right? Wherever
Yeah.
you're working, वहाँ पे you develop a reputation, you develop a certain stature within the organization, and people have certain view on you. Your HR
Mm.
department has a view on you, your teammates have a view on you, and that
बिल्कुल.
view then translates into what your reputation is within the organization, and then your organization starts taking a view on you, whether it's on succession planning, leadership development, growing you within a certain role, giving you training you for a certain different skill set. It's all
Yeah.
part of your reputation that is being developed over time. Now,
Mm.
if you're able to put yourself out there, if you're able to put your story out there, if you're able to communicate what it is that you bring to the table, the more effective it is, and the better your organization, the better view or more transparent view your organization has of you. And then that view also then gets translated outside the organization. It develops into a market reputation, and that market reputation, it never holds on to the fact that whether you're just at the start of your career, you're at a mid-level or senior. आपकी market, when you develop a market reputation, then people in the same industry start hearing about you, and this can be good
Mm.
or bad things, right?
Yeah.
Preferably, you want them to be good things so that आपकी एक फिर market value बनने लग जाती है. So when we talk
Mm.
about, when you go out looking for a job somewhere, and we
Mm.
talk about कि हाँ यार, I want to see what my market value is. That's what it is. It's how much you've actually put yourself out there, how much of a reputation of yourself have you built out there, and how does that translate into your market value? That's on the
Right.
professional side. On the personal side, the reason I bring the personal side here as well is because that's very important as well. And in my view, it impacts your happiness factor. Because in this era where we're all sharing on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook at the very least,
Mm.
even on LinkedIn, we're sharing stories, we're sharing news feeds, we're sharing pictures. What happens is, you look around, even if you're somebody that's not too much into sharing, and I'm one of those people, and you don't feel like sharing too much, but when you look around and you
Mm.
see your peers sharing so much, whether it's on the
Yeah.
personal front or the professional front, you start thinking to yourself, "Yeah, why am I not sharing? Why should I not put a story out there, or whatever story it may be?" And
Yeah.
then if you don't, I think a lot of times it does start eating away at you, and then so you start putting it, because it's all encompassing. It's really taking over our lives for good or bad. I mean, that's a separate topic. But
Yeah.
when it does, and you're not partaking in it, you feel like you're missing out. When you start feeling you're missing out, then you start resenting. So it's
Mm.
important that you recognize it, uh,
Mm.
and after you recognize it, you understand it, and then you try and use it to your advantage as much as you can.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, there was a lot of things said, and I guess just to recall what you just mentioned about, it's all about what about your work, the work that you do. It's also about the market value that you get after working from different places, and of course, when you get stuck in a quagmire between whether to post it or not to post it, whether to use social media and how much to use social media, and that brings me to my next question towards a deal. But again, before that, there are a lot of comments that I would want to talk about, and I want to mention them. हमें एक अली सईद का एक सवाल मौजूद है, जो अली मैं बिल्कुल आगे जाके सवाल को बिल्कुल आपके मेंशन करूंगा। हमें ज्वाइन किया हुआ है अली फारूकी फ्रॉम सिटी बैंक। थैंक यू अली फॉर बीइंग हियर विद अस। वी हैव Zuhaib Javed from Citibank, and of course he's saying, Adeel, you're such a gem. Thank you, Zuhaib, for such nice words. And I have Rabia Sattar joining me from HUBCO. Thank you all of you for being here with us. And बिल्कुल हमारे साथ बने रहिए। मेरे साथ मौजूद हैं अदील और शहरियार। टिल 1 hour वी हैव टाइम 5:15। हम बात कर रहे हैं पर्सनल ब्रांडिंग की। नाउ अदील, व्हेन टू डिफरेंशिएट, you know, when to post, what to post, where to post, how much to post on the social media stuff? What is that right balance? Because sometimes, when there's a person who's posting too much, we say, you know what, why he or she is hungry after, so much of likes and everything. Why is he or she is going so much after it, And there's a very thin line difference between bragging about your work and being modest about your work. How do we differentiate about that?
Zen, so I think you got to put a lot of thought behind that, and I think for before we try to understand what to put and where to put it, I think it's very important to realize for people who are listening and people who are really interested in their own personal projection, that personal branding is a lifelong project. I mean, a lot of people mess it up as too many people try to be everything for everyone. I mean, in order to start, you have to start with embracing yourself. First of all, in order to be able to personally brand yourself and in order to decide what content to post, you first have to embrace yourself. And if you're posting content randomly without any thought process behind it, then people would probably that's not you. People can see right through you when you are trying to be someone else. I mean, the most effective thing to do is first, before deciding where we're posting something, you need to start to build a narrative around yourself. Nobody wants, I mean, if you say you're a marketeer, you're a compliance person, you are a banker, you're a lawyer, nobody wants to hear about your brand or your profession blaring it out, you're putting it out there. I mean, nobody just wants to hear that I'm a marketeer and here that's my product. I mean, you have to have a story in your mind before you're posting something. And then you have to create a story that an audience can engage with. And one of the best ways is to tell the story through videos or writing content. But once you've identified these parameters, then only one should go out onto social media and be posting things. And once you've done that, another thing that you have to follow is consistency. I mean, you have to remain consistent with your online and offline profile, right? So if you posted something, you posted an opinion about it, or you were endorsing something, then you have to remain consistent towards endorsing it offline as well when you're socially interacting with people. And I can't really stress enough as to how these inconsistencies could actually derail you from the path that you put on yourself. You're set out to achieve, either if it's for a job or if it's for your own business that you're trying to establish. I mean, if you're not consistent with what you're telling people online and you are not really living that life offline, you would really not achieve your objective. And basically, either you're trying to position yourself as a fun person or a more conservative corporate person, you have to live that life, and online or offline. For instance, if I want to be taken as a very serious banker, I cannot be seen in the evenings in public. I'm posting something very serious online and I'm sharing content online, but I cannot be letting myself loose in a gathering in the evening and completely forgetting the profile that I or the values that I've endorsed in the morning. So you have to live that life. And this lifelong project, and once you have realized that you are working on a lifelong project, then only would you start developing that I would say that you would actually wake up to the fact that as to what you should post and what you should not post. And obviously Facebook is a channel, we love Facebook, we all of us are on Facebook, but Facebook is a more of a personal channel. Then you've got LinkedIn, which is a professional channel, and then you've got Twitter, then you've got WhatsApp, Instagram, and there are a variety of platforms that one uses. But this is this is the science behind first understanding what sort of an image you want to project, what story you want to tell people, how do you want people to to perceive you when they're interacting with you. So you first got to figure that out, and then you got to embrace your surroundings and build your narrative within that surrounding, and build a story around that, and then go out and take the content that you want to promote, and then from there on live the life that you have socially opened up to. that's
Wow,
that,
wow,
that's how.
beautifully explained, Adil. I guess ये मेरे लिए भी बहुत कुछ सीखने का मामला है, and of course, it's an always an honor, to have professionals like you both coming on board with us, and of course, talking about this thing as well. And you said something very, I would say, aptly that this is a lifelong project. And people who think that what this personal branding is just about a year or so, ये मैं मुझे बस एक जॉब मिल जाए और फिर बस बेस्ट है, छोड़ दूं लिंक्डइन को, छोड़ दूं फेसबुक को, छोड़ दूं सारी स्टोरीज को. I guess that is something I would say it's awesome about that. And एक और सवाल, इसका थोड़ा सा बिल्डअप सवाल, and before I move on, again there are a lot of comments that I want to take in forward. I have Anam Javed joining me. She is a freelance content writer and an aspiring author as well. Thank you, Anam, for being here with us. I have my colleague Saman joining me from Karachi. We have Ali Nader Surani joining us from HUBCO. Thank you, Ali, for being here. No, this is Al Nasser Nader. Then there is Zishan joining us from HUBCO as well. And then, of course, I have another colleague of mine, Zohra, joining me from Funworks Global. Shaharyar, जो अदील ने यहाँ पे बात कही है, is there anything that you want to add to it?
I think what Adeel was saying was absolutely right, and I think he very rightly identified. When you were asking, how do you decide what to post, what not to post, and he was very right about the different kinds of platforms that are out there, and it sometimes seems like common sense, but common sense is sometimes the thing that's the least common.
Yeah.
Facebook pay, we tend to post a lot of things, and sometimes it surprises me the kind of things people post on LinkedIn as well. Leaving aside other social media platforms, if we just talk about Facebook and LinkedIn, by all accounts, there was a survey done by Financial Times of the largest employers in the US and the EU, including the UK as well. And 1 out of 3 admitted that they do a thorough search on social media platforms before shortlisting candidates for various jobs. And this was at all levels. So, whatever we're putting out there, whatever we are trying to build in terms of our story, Adil's absolutely right. You have to be consistent because someone is watching, someone is looking. I mean, forget the fact that Google has its algorithms and, they're monitoring everything you're doing, and they're going to be customizing everything around you. But the fact that your prospective employers are also watching, they're going to be going through your social media history. They're going to be seeing what your story is, what content you've been putting out there, and whether it's consistent, whether it's genuine or not, and whether it is a true reflection of you or not.
Interesting. And of course, and this is a great learning for everybody who's watching us today. And either I would say your potential employee, your potential customer, everybody is watching of what you're posting on your Facebook, on your Insta, on your LinkedIn. And a lot of people said, what, I only post it with my friends only, but that's just a myth. The privacy on Facebook and everything is just a myth, and everybody understands that it's a myth, that there is something called privacy, जो आपने chat पे भी भेजा. अच्छा, moving on with this topic as well. जब अदील ने बात कही है यहाँ पे, I just want to build on that as well. हम जो पोस्ट कर रहे हैं चीजें और जो स्टोरी बना रहे हैं चीजें, I've seen that often people get lost in their company's brand and their own brand. The only thing they post or share is their company data, is their company posts. चाहे वो जॉब हो, चाहे वो अनाउंसमेंट्स हो, चाहे वो एनिवर्सरी की चीजें, जो भी मामला चल रहा होता है, whatever the company social media is posting, they're only sharing that only. And this is very much true for startups, because startups छोटी होती हैं, इदारा छोटा होता है, did not have that much budget कि वो ads लगाएं अपने Facebook पे, अपने Instagram पे. So of course they expect a lot from their employees to share the information and let the word out. And oftentimes your own brand gets confused here. How to go about that maybe? उसके बाद क्या, उसके लेके किस तरह चले?
Yeah, I think what you got to do is you have to differentiate between your story and your brand or your employer's story or your organization's story. If you're an entrepreneur and it's your startup, it's very easy to get those two mixed up. And a lot of times your startup's story is very interlinked with your own story, so that's understandable. But if you're an employee of that startup, then it is it is difficult, but it is crucial to create that differentiation and to try and build some sort of boundary as well. It's
Hmm.
good to obviously show your employer that you have brand loyalty
Yeah,
and you're really there for them, and you want to be a part of the growth story as well. But
yeah,
you shouldn't get too lost in there either. What you need to do is and with a lot of times when you are sharing content, you do have the option of putting your own caption or putting a bit out there yourself, using hashtags as well, or using the comment boxes. um, it's a good idea to make use of those to get your viewpoint across. Sometimes that might not be, it might not go down very well with the owner of the startup, who is hoping that you would just put like 5 stars and thumbs up and that's all. um, but it's important for you to make sure you stand out as well, because if you get lost in the startup, then um, while your fortunes may be tied to that startup, they might not be, and you don't know where that startup is going. Similarly, with large organizations, even with large organizations, we've seen that people do get really caught up with their day jobs and with their brand loyalty and the corporate image, and they want to be a part of that. It's good to do that. It's a great thing. I mean, those type of employees are obviously fantastic, but one must always recognize that you are your individual person. And जो पहले एक era था of our fathers' generations, where and this goes back to the corporate culture as well that has changed. Our fathers' generation was that when you joined the market and you joined an organization, you stayed there till retirement, right? It was till death do us part. Now you join an organization 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years at the max, and you move on, and that way the corporate structures work. So you've got to sort of be able to differentiate that, because otherwise, if you're so entrenched into that corporate image and you're not creating your own story, you're going to find it very difficult to extrapolate yourself from there and move on to do anything else that you want to do.
ब्यूटीफुल एंड आई गेस दैट इज मच मोर नीडेड कि आप जो फंस ना जाएं इतना ज़्यादा उस स्टार्टअप, उस एसएमई, उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के ऊपर कि अगेन यू डू नॉट नो आप कब तक हैं उनके साथ, कब तक मुंसलिक नहीं है. Adil, when we talk about brands, now there are two things that are being taught in every marketing class: target audience and stakeholders. When we talk about personal brand, Adil, how to understand that who's my target audience, number one, and of course who would be the stakeholders? क्या parents stakeholders में आएंगे, क्या आपके spouse stakeholders में आएंगे? What do you think about that, Adil?
Then, as I said, it's a lifelong project. It's a reputation. It's what outlives you, your personal brand. So I would, if I take a very individualized approach, I mean, it's any and everybody that your stakeholders are. When I step out of the room, whoever, if from my domestics help to my wife, to my child, to my parents, to anybody that sees me and the way I interact with them and conduct myself, that they're the stakeholders. I mean, this is at a very personal and individualized level, because obviously the persona that you carry, your attitude, whether you're an arrogant person or an understanding person, I mean, the narrative starts building from there. Marketing today is it has transformed in it's not the same as what it used to be when we were growing up, when we would see an ice cream ad on TV, or we would see any company. Today it's all word of mouth, and word of mouth starts from home. Your wife is going to probably talk about you or your personality with a friend who is probably going to be like, okay, hush, hush, I don't want to, spread any gossip around or stuff like that. But, she would definitely speak to another person. And that's how a circle brings around you. And that's just one, one thread. But similarly, that happens with your child, your domestic help, to your parents. Everybody does that. And when you step out of the house, you're interacting with other people who could be a shop owner who you go to every day. And obviously, when you build a rapport with them, they talk about you further on. So if your reputation is going to be of a person who is more open, who is more, it depends how you're projecting yourself. You've got to identify that. And this also links very closely with businesses. I mean, I would just want to add a bit to what Shaharyar was also saying. I mean, my approach is slightly different with regards to differentiating yourself from your business as well as your individual personality, because in Pakistan, in a country where we live, and also overseas, where you look at small and medium businesses, they're very dependent on the person who started them. Even today, we have businesses which are dependent on the person who started something. Or just look around you outside your house, you see a beauty salon, you see a photographer's shop, whoever you say. I mean, there is one person who is leading that shop, right? You've got that's one name after which everybody's going to come after. So you cannot really differentiate yourselves from your brand, because if you are going to be known as an arrogant person, or as an unethical person, that's going to affect your business directly. If you're not going to be known as somebody who does not keep your word, who is not delivering, even in your personal space, or your professional space, I mean, you're not going to get the footfall or the business or the recall back again. So you have to live your, when I say that you have to live it online and offline, you have to define the values, you have to have a vision, and you have to really organize yourself. And if you don't do that, you will not succeed in getting a job, getting to a university, or getting clientele to your business, for that matter. And if you look at large organizations as well, I mean, if you see the various FMCGs globally, they have circled themselves around one person which they work to build. Like, for instance, if I look at my organization, we circle around to a global CEO. Look at Unilever, look at P&G, they circle around that one global celebrity that they develop, and they actually showcase the values that that person is living. And those values are the same as, the values that we keep on marketing about the organization. So you have to live the narrative. You have to really organize and understand that if you want to really be successful, you have to consider everybody around you as your stakeholder. You have to start from home, and that's where you start, and eventually you evolve. So the stakeholders is everybody. So that's how
Wow,
I
wow,
would summarize it.
wow! That was amazing, and I must say that stakeholders and everybody, and yes, we all understand that there are examples of people not getting the right opportunities is because the stakeholders around them do not believe that that person, deserves that opportunity, and it's only it has to do with the branding and the reputation that you have built around you. And that was amazing. And thank you so much, Adil and Sharia, for talking about this. We have more comments. Let's take our live comments, and of course, we're gonna continue our thing. So, what happens? People who are watching us for the first time. So, 30 minutes of our show, I ask questions, and 30 minutes, and I encourage my audience to ask questions from our esteemed guests. So, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the comment section, and of course, I'm going to take one by one. Do mention that who are you asking this question to? Are you asking from Adil? Are you asking from Shahryar? Do mention that as well. And we have some points as well. We have Sadia Zedi. She is joining. She is a global citizen and she is an entrepreneur. Thank you, Sadia, for being here with us. I have Salan Sheikh. He is joining me from Karachi. He's watching us on Facebook. Then I have, okay, right. And I have Farise Askari. She is a marketing student from IBA, and of course, currently she's an intern at HUBCO. Right. So I have a question, and since there is no person mentioned, I'm going to route this question to you, Sharia. The question is from Saman Fayyaz Nazar. Someone is asking, are your posts a reflection of yourself or your organizations? Are they influenced by your moment of thought or insights?
So I think when you ask if your posts are a reflection of yourself or your organization, I think it depends really on what you're posting. If your post is more of a professional nature, if the social media platform that you're using is that is used for is more of a professional nature in itself, such as LinkedIn, then it's something that and you're reposting, let's say, something about your organization or something that your organization has put out, then it's obviously a reflection of your organization. But if you're posting it, then and let's say you're putting some sort of comment on it, or you're putting some sort of hashtag in which you're endorsing it, then of course it is, you're taking that on yourself as well. You are saying that this is something you believe in, this is something that you buy into, and that you have ownership of, and therefore it is a reflection of you. If you share it on any other social media platform such as Facebook or Instagram or Twitter as well, again, if you are putting it out there with the intent of endorsing it, then yes, it is. Then it would be considered to be a reflection of you, because it's something that you are owning yourself. Um, but if you're putting something out there that in which you are showing complete disagreement, if you're showing complete disgust, or you're saying that or you're saying in plain words that you don't agree with it, then obviously it's that post is obviously a reflection of you. in which you are disagreeing with whatever message your organization was trying to put out. Now, if you're putting something out that is very personal to you, if you're putting out something that, let's say an abstract picture or something of a scenery that has caused you some sort of inspiration, or it's a moment of thought or insight, those posts are obviously, they are very personal to you. They say a lot about you, and that is one would assume this those story that you're trying to put out as well. So you're trying to, like Adeel was saying, you're trying to build that narrative about yourself, and it would be a reflection of you, and that's how people would perceive it as well. Um, if you want to put out stuff that is influencing you, if a lot of people sometimes share things about the weather, if there's beautiful weather because it's raining, or they see a rainbow and they put out like some lyrics or poems with it. It is something that you're being influenced by. It's something that is causing you a moment of reflection, and it's good to share those things, if you want to do that. But again, it's got to be part of the larger story. It's got to be part of the larger narrative. It can't be, you just took a picture and you posted it just because you thought that other people might think that it was very intellectual of you. You're being a bit of a pseudo intellectual there. So it's a lot about that. It's really more about the content of the post itself. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
um, but again, one thing to always remember in these sort of situations, whether you're thinking about the post, if whether it's a reflection of you or not, whether it's a moment of insight, or you're being influenced by something, or if you're thinking of something in particular, if it's an emotional moment, the key to it all is genuineness. You've got to be genuine. Whether you're sharing something from your organization or it's something personal, be genuine, because
Hmm.
trust me, people always see through it, especially people in your social circle, people that know you, people that follow you. They will see through it, and genuineness counts for everything.
बिल्कुल. And
Zain, if I
genuineness, बिल्कुल बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
just add
Please,
a
please.
couple of lines to what Sharyar
Yeah.
said. So I look at it from a slightly different lens. I feel that if you post something, that is
Hmm.
a reflection of you. Whether you take it as a whether it's an organizational post, or whether or not, because you have the authority and the power to post on your LinkedIn or your social media accounts, wherever you have, or WhatsApp. But the thing is that because when you're posting something, you're taking the authority. You're actually you are becoming the source of that particular information, right? So no matter what you say, you are actually taking over the responsibility of being the source. Now, whether it's your responsibility to verify the source before you post some content out there, and whether you believe with it or not, and if you're spreading the message across, but if you don't believe it, then you're basically not living, you're actually living in denial, or you're basically not being yourself. You're basically projecting a different image, trying to project something different on your social media platform as to what your belief or your ethos is. So if you put something out there, say social media is like an animal. If once you put
Hmm.
something out there, it's very difficult to take it back. So if you put something out there and you don't believe in it, and you think that you're just spreading a message by helping out the other person, you're basically taking on somebody else's responsibility. You are
Yeah.
becoming the source of that particular message that has gone out. Now you cannot walk away from it. So you really have to think. We have in our professional lives, as well as in our society, you have to be careful with the words that you say. You have to weigh them before they come out of your mouth. Similarly, you have to weigh what comes weigh the message before it goes out onto your social media platforms, because nobody there are multiple minds. People perceive things from different angles, so they will perceive it in their own aspect. You don't have control on how people are receiving your
Hmm.
message, and
Hmm.
how much they're getting influenced by it. So that's how I look at it. So you have to be very
Wow.
responsible with that.
बिल्कुल, वी हैव टू बी वेरी वेरी रिस्पॉन्सिबल. आई हैव सम मोर कमेंट्स कमिंग इन एंड ऑफ कोर्स इसी सवाल पे एक सवाल अदील आपके लिए एक और भी था मेरे पास. आई एम गोना आस्क यू दैट एज वेल, बट लेट्स क्विकली सी comments. If you are watching us now, if you have joined us now, I have Shaharyar Nishat from HUBCO and I have Adeel Shahid from Citibank Pakistan joining me. We're talking about personal branding today, and we're talking the art and science behind it, what's there, what's not there, what to post, what not to post, how to take responsibility. And it's been almost 40 minutes since we have been talking. We are here for 20 more minutes, and if you have just joined in, please do drop your name, your designation, your organization, and if there's any question, feel free to ask. I still have these two gentlemen with me for 20 more minutes. Right. So we have more people coming in. We have Rebecca, who's joining me. Of course, she's a colleague of mine. She's joining me from Funworks. I have Mina Adil joining us from Karachi. I have Zora is completely agreeing with what you said, Sharia, about being genuine. And of course, there is another comment by Sadia Zaidi understood that personal branding is a reputation one has built over the years, and that's the story you have built. The query is, how do we change the personal brand without social media? This question is for you, Adil.
Well, it's very simple, right? As I said, that your stakeholders start from home. So if you want to change your personal brand without social media, you got to start from home. You got to
Hmm.
start projecting that image. You got to start believing the new value system that you want to introduce outside, first internally at home, and then when you step outside. It's a longer process if you want to do it without social media, because today's the age, it's a digital age. So you completely got to reset at home, and then when you step out, that's when you got to start living it. You got to interact with more and more people and tell them your new narrative or your new opinion. It's very difficult to basically rebuild your reputation or rebuild your social brand, but it's not impossible. You have to
Okay.
start from home, and you got to take
Hmm.
baby steps. You don't want to use social media, then you walk away from it, and but
Hmm.
then you obviously, social media basically brings us together virtually, but in actual practical life, obviously we have social circles. So you treat those as your social media platforms or your social platforms, and then that's where you start narrating your story or your opinions or your conversations. That's how you do it without social media, because the media puts everybody together virtually, but we also get together socially in our personal lives, and that's another platform where we have to make sure that we're putting the same message across. So that's how you do it without social media, but you got to start from home and then work outwards.
Beautiful, Adil. Thank you so much for that question. I hope that answers your question, Sadia, as well. I have Javed Siyalvi joining me from Pfizer. Thank you so much, Javed, for being here. अच्छा अदिल एक और चीज़ होती ये भी है एंड अगेन ये मुझे शैया ने बात भी कही थी एंड ऑफ कोर्स आपकी बात भी थी उन बातों से एक बात निकली अक्सर का ये होता है कि यू पोस्ट समथिंग ऑन योर सोशल मीडिया अबाउट ideally a complaint. Now, you know, we all know load shedding is a big issue. We all know that there are a lot of other issues happening around us. Now, one of us gets frustrated and he or she posts on Twitter, posts on Facebook, posts on LinkedIn, and curses the company. And there is a deal that is about to happen between your organization, the organization you work for, and that company. And then things get dirty. एंड यू नो दैट देयर आर लॉट ऑफ टाइम दिस हैज हैपेंड कि आपने अपनी एक पर्सनल बात लिखनी चाहिए अपनी पर्सनल फ्रस्ट्रेशन लिखनी चाहिए मगर उसका आफ्टर इफेक्ट आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को पड़ता है ऐसे वक्तों में क्या किया जाए where the individual would say that you know what yes I work for this organization but I have a right of opinion you know I can always opinion and I can always say and I did not say anything wrong मैंने सच बात कही थी अच्छा ऐसे वक्तों में बंदे बहुत फंस जाते हैं especially when you work for a very big corporate giants and how to go about that.
That's interesting, Zain. That's a crisis scenario that you've put yourself into, and then obviously your organization is running after you as well as your. How would one deal with such a situation? So where your comments have put your organization in jeopardy.
Yes.
Uh, well, this is an interesting one.
Let's ask Shreya. Shreya, since you also directed legal, what would go?
I would honestly walk to legal. I'd be like, yo, this is what's gone wrong. What rights do I have with this person? Like, what's the contract say? Can I let go of this person and to save the organization? So, but
Yeah,
let's ask legal first.
जी Shreya.
So let me put on my legal hat now.
Yes, please.
Um, Look, so a lot of organizations now have social media policies, social media usage policies, in which there will always be, the wording might be different, but there's a standard principle that be responsible when using social media, whether
Okay.
it's from the office or at home, wherever you are representing the organization. Especially when you're talking about big organizations such as and recognizable, globally recognizable brands such as Citibank. Um, Wherever you are, if you post something out there, let's say, you put something out there on LinkedIn, uh, right below your name, your designation is coming, right? Or if you put something out there on Facebook, works at Nije Likha, it's coming right at the bottom, right? So your organization might just get into trouble. And if something like that happens, rest assured you are going to be in trouble with HR for a policy violation. Um,
Hmm.
this reminds me of this very old story. There's a guy driving for a job interview. He's in a bit of a rush, wants to make a great impression. He gets to the building where the interview is going to be. He tries to find a parking spot. There's only one spot left. He tries to park in there, and someone else comes in there. So he curses that person out, then goes parks elsewhere. Then he goes upstairs, and the interviewer is the person he just cursed out.
Wow.
Right? So what do you do? So you know, I think it's, and I'll go back to what Adeel said earlier. You've got to be mindful of your story at all times. As soon as you leave the room, everybody around you, from everyone in your house to everyone to the people on the street that you interact with, to the people in the office you interact with, the shopkeepers, the business owners, the bank teller, etc. Everybody is your stakeholder. You've got to treat them as such. You've got to behave like that. Yes, we're all frustrated. K is having multiple issues nowadays. The internet companies are giving the Karachiites a lot of issues for the last 2 days. It's understandable if you lose your cool. I remember there was a time when these mobile companies had just come to Pakistan, right? Like Paktel, Instaphone, Mobilink, and people used to call those hotlines and really bash them. And those recordings would then get released, and people would find out who it was, and we all have a good laugh about it, but that it hurts you down the line. So you've got to be mindful of that. You've got to be responsible, and you've got to be able to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, okay, complain, let your feelings out, but do it in a more responsible manner, especially when you're putting something out there on social media. Once it's out there, like Adil said, it's a beast. It's out
Hmm.
there, you have no control over it.
Right,
also
right.
also then
Yes.
then then I think this comes back to the fact, right? If, for instance, I am posting something about an electricity provider who was really ruined my night, right? And I've gone on and blasted them off on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, and posted pictures and abused them and cursed them, right? And obviously that is also shown a reflection of that's reflected upon something that's happening, some transaction that's happening on my organization. First of all, see, this is when I started off by saying that this is a lifelong project and this is your reputation. I don't think anybody who is responsible enough, who is really trying to project themselves, outside of their works, outside of their personal space on social platforms, would actually be silly enough to go and really project an image of themselves as being an abrasive or a brash person. If you are putting something out there and you're not remaining in the guidelines of what ethical standards are when you're talking to people, or your conduct, you cannot be abusing in general. I mean, these are basics that we have. So I mean, again, you've just ruined your personal brand out there. Secondly, you ruined the brand that you work for. Obviously, organizations have policies, multinationals or local or whatsoever. They have their internal policies on dealing with people, and telling them how much information or what sort of information, or whether client related information can go up on social media platforms or not. That becomes a policy violation, and that's something with legal and compliance and everybody else has to figure out with the employee. But coming back to the individual, you've just destroyed your brand. You could have easily put that information out in a more in a more effective manner. Maybe you could have done a video post telling them, in a very impactful way, as to what you faced, and telling people what you face, and get their sympathy and get their network in the community to support you. But rather than doing that, what you've done is you've actually gone and become personal, whereas there is, and you're
Yeah.
personal with an organization who is not a person, right? So
Yeah.
and just exposed what your personality is, and that
Yeah.
exposure is actually going to come back and bite you.
Wow.
So this is something that people have to be very careful before they post something
Exactly,
like this.
exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I asked you this question, because I have seen people really, if not losing job, then at least getting a warning letter from their organization, because the person, they went against, they posted something, bad things about those companies. And as you said, getting personal with the organization again, this kind of bites you. And people, again, this is something that this is also very important for you as well, on how you go about this thing as well. एक सवाल है शरिया, आपके लिए सवाल है अली सईद का। अली सईद पूछ रहे हैं, what is the best investment attribute I should make for increasing my brand value?
I think in terms of investing, or trying to, in terms of the investment, or that you can do in terms of increasing your brand value, I think first and foremost you need to understand what is it that is of value. What is your brand value? What is your USP that you are going to be putting out there? How are you going to sell your story? How are you going to tell your story, and how are you going to sell it? And then
Hmm.
and then how does that showcase the value that you bring to the table? I think if you are able to do that, then you can take the next step, and then go from there, and see what are those essential steps you need to do, either within the organization or outside your organization in a personal capacity, on how you showcase your brand value, how you then bring increase the overall reputation that you have, that you enjoy in the market, or if you're trying to build up some sort of reputation, and how do you do that? So I think the first step is you've got to try and understand what is the USP, what is that USP of yours, and how are you going to be able to tell that story?
Right, beautiful. What is that USP and how will you tell that story? Beautiful. Let's move ahead. And if you're still watching us right now, we still have 10 more minutes. We've entered into 50th minute of our show. It's been a wonderful discussion with Shaharyar and Adeel. You're talking about personal branding. We have discussed various aspects of personal branding, from write your story to your attributes to what do you do about your posts and everything on social media. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Adeel and Shaharyar are with me for 10 more minutes. And thank you, Adil and Shaya, for, of course, being here with us. And it's been a wonderful discussion with both of you today. We have a few more questions before we end our session. Last question that I want to ask both of you is the importance of building right connections. Now, a man is known with the company he or she keeps. That is what we have been hearing about. Often, at times, Adil, people get judged by their company. No matter how much potential you have, you may miss out on opportunity because of not what you're bringing to the table, just because your clan, your circle, your
Can you? I think I,
I can hear
Sharia,
you.
I
No,
can't
I
hear
think
Zain.
uh,
I, be- I think there's Zain is probably the internet probably has.
probably.
I think we should probably wait for him to get back.
Yeah.
But I think what I gathered, and I don't know if people are hearing us at the moment or not, or whether it's going on. But I think what I gathered,
it is.
he was probably referring to how what sort of connections one should make professionally and personally is what I understood.
Yeah.
So I and I mean, do was that the question? Like, what sort of Sharia
Yeah,
were you?
that's what I understood he was asking.
Okay. So yes, I think from my perspective, if I'm looking from the marketing side or the public relations side, it's very important to identify the connections that you want to make, right? And I think the easiest platforms available to us when we're trying to project ourselves is starts from a platform such as LinkedIn. And LinkedIn would allow you to identify the audience that you want to work uh, that you want to work with or you want to build networks with. So I think it's a science. It's a job in itself altogether. One should probably open up an Excel sheet and probably make columns of in order to identify, where they want to be, and then what story they want to tell and who they want to tap into. And through there on, it's very easy to I believe make a list of people, locate them through LinkedIn, and connect with them, and then send them a message and try to initiate a conversation with them, and then try to see whether you can move beyond a LinkedIn conversation to have maybe a face-to-face meeting or a cup of tea with them, to establish that connection. So that allows one to build a network within their own fields. And I think to start with, one should start with their own professional circle. For instance, if Sharia, for instance, you're a lawyer, I'm assuming you probably want to reach out to other lawyers just to build that network, and then from there on, understand where you want to go, whether you want to go towards the family law side, or you want to go towards the corporate side, or you want to go towards criminal, and then from there on branch out to your own network. Similar thing also marketing. You want to go on the digital side, you want to go on the brand side, you want to go on the advertising side, you want to go on the PR side. So first build the base, and then after that identify, narrow it down to further understand which aspect you want to go to. LinkedIn is your starting point. That's where you start, and then through there on, you can also tap into your own social network and your own people, and just understand and from them as to with regards to building network. I mean, I've just tried to summarize what I thought was the question. So I've been very vague in my answer as well. So I don't know if that really answers it, but unfortunately I wasn't able to get the question.
No, I think you're right. I think that was my understanding of the question as well, and sort of takes me back to that age-old saying that you're judged by the company you keep.
Yeah.
Right. If you and like you were saying as well, like if you go around and identify the right kind of people, the kind of network you want to build around yourself, because that network will obviously then be there to support you. It'll support you in terms of finding the right opportunities for yourself, but it'll also be the right network for you, so that people around you can see that this is a responsible person. This person is a lawyer. They want to do well in the legal field or in the marketing field. They want to go into the digital space. They're surrounded by entrepreneurs, so this person probably has an entrepreneurial streak or wants to go down that road. So it's important to sort of to have that network, to build that network for yourself, and obviously, and like you were saying, be very selective about that as well. Obviously, friends are friends and family is family, but when you're talking about building a network or building those around you, building your connections around you, I think you've got to be selective. Not necessarily prejudicial, but certainly be selective about who you go and make part of your network, and obviously on a personal front as well as on a professional front. And remember that saying, because I think it holds true even now. Okay, you're going to be judged by the company you keep. So and whether it's right or wrong, eventually the company you keep or the network that you become a part of, it does actually influence you at the end of the day.
That's right. That's right.
Right, beautiful. Thank you so much. And so sorry that I went
We
out.
tried
And
to answer the question, which we thought was the question. So we just gave a very vague wrap up of whatever
and
we could.
that was perfect because यही सवाल था मेरा बिल्कुल कि again by the company you keep, and sometimes the technology does keep you out, and ये होता है कि host को बाहर फेंक देते हैं, and that's the beauty about virtual sessions and the StreamYard thingy. So we have entered into the 57th minute of our show, and I guess आप दोनों ने इस सवाल का आंसर कर दिया, if I'm not wrong.
We're hoping that was the question. And that was the answer.
ठीक है, we have entered into the last 3 minutes of our session. People, if you're still watching us and you still have a question, feel free to comment and feel free to ask your question. Meanwhile, I would like to take closing notes from both of our guests. It's 3 more minutes till that social show ends. I'll start with you, Adeel. Your closing note to everybody who's watching us, and of course with the entire discussion, if you want to summarize it.
Sure. So, personal, as I would just tell you guys, my message is, guys, personal branding is your reputation. It outlives you. It is what you are. It is what people see you to be. It's always up to you till you are living. It's completely your decision as to how you want people to believe. How they want to see you. All I would say is that embrace yourselves, be genuine, try to accept your realities and be proud of them. Every individual is different. Every person has a different story. Pick up the stories around you and build your narrative around it. And trust me, once you embrace yourself and you have actually and just summarized everything, you're brought up, your lifestyle, even your household situation, to the fact that whatever era or age you grew up in, trust me, that's where you start your story, and everybody will be very interested in hearing that. So just put a narrative together about yourself which people are interested in hearing, and it should just not be a one-liner, but something that people could engage with and people could interact with. So and that's the crux of building a personal brand, is what I feel.
Beautiful, Adil. It's all about that story that you're trying to tell people. And it's all about that. Do not think so much about personal branding. Think of your story. Think of what you offer. Think of what you bring on table. Thank you so much, Adil, for being here with us. Shaya, I would like to request you for your closing note to everybody who's watching us.
Well, not much to add after what Adil said. I think he wrapped it up perfectly. I would just add, I guess, by saying that again, what I said earlier. Think about your USP. Think about the value addition that you bring at every level, professional or personal. Um, think about that. Really think hard about it. See how you will. What is the best way to tell that story? Get it out there. What are the mediums you want to use? Be honest with yourself and be honest with your audience as well. And when you're thinking about your USP or when you're thinking about how you're going to tell the story, think of yourself. We keep saying personal branding. Think of yourself as a brand, as an actual brand, and then you'll find that it's easier to actually get your name out there, get your story out there, get your reputation out there. And one word that comes to my mind when I think about a personal brand is legacy. What is it that will be my legacy? What is it that will be your legacy? Think about in that term, in those terms, and then really try and push that message out there. And again, just be honest with yourself, be honest with the audience, and be responsible for whatever you put out there.
Just
Beautiful.
one.
Understand your USP. G.
Then a couple things also wanted to say to people is like, don't be apologetic for who you are. Always embrace yourself. Be very comfortable in your skin. You don't have to speak in English if you're not comfortable with that language. You don't have to speak in Urdu, speak in Punjabi for that matter, but be very comfortable with the language that you are speaking in. Be very comfortable with the clothes that you're wearing. Do not wear clothes. Do not speak a language which is not you, which doesn't define you, which doesn't define the story around you, which doesn't define the environment or the ambience around you. That is the first package that people see, and that is the first judgment that they make when they can see through you, when you're trying to be somebody you're not. Once you've established that confidence, trust me, you will be able to tell the best story. It doesn't matter what language, what clothes, what country you're from. You just have to be very comfortable in your skin, and that's it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Shaharyar. Thank you so much, Adil, for being here with us, for joining us today for BizWords. Everybody who's watching us, I hope you had good time watching us. I hope the whole session was not only interactive for you, but also very informative and very memorable. So whenever we talk about personal branding, of course, you can always add Shaharyar and Adil on their LinkedIn network. इनके पूरे नाम यहाँ मौजूद हैं. आप उन्हें LinkedIn पे ऐड कर सकते हैं. आपके पास और कोई सवालात हो, बिल्कुल आप इनको मैसेज कर सकते हैं. And I'm sure that with time they're going to respond to your message as well. But please do not harass them. कई बार कुछ लोगों ने मेरे गेस्ट को harass किया, harass मत कीजिएगा. And of course, thank you for being here. अगर आप हमने पहली बार हमारे चैनल पे आए हैं, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. Funworks keeps on bringing such amazing professionals from across the country, and of course, sometimes from other countries as well. And we share our discussion, we share our input, and of course, BizWords is words that matters. Thank you so much for being here. Inshallah, अपना बहुत ख्याल रखिए. Keep safe, keep healthy, and we'll see you at the other time. इंशाल्लाह फ्यूचर में फिर मुलाकात होगी आपको किसी एक और नए शो के साथ, एक नए टॉपिक के साथ, एक नई चीज़ों के साथ. मैं जैन गोपलानी अपने गेस्ट शहरियार और अदील के साथ इजाज़त लेता हूँ. अपना बहुत बहुत ख्याल रखिएगा. थैंक यू सो मच. टेक केयर. गुड बाय.
Thank you. Dafis.